Hey, Karita Griffith Walker here, doing my best Bessie Coleman impression, looking like I'm in a cockpit or something. If you don't know who Bessie Coleman is, go ahead and Google, okay? One of the early women in flight, Bessie Coleman. Anyway, I am wearing this because my other little headset that I usually wear seems to have been broken. The microphone on it is broken or something is not working. So I had to find something in my house that had better sound than my computer or the other options I have. I like good sound. I don't think people like, oh, sounding so great. So I'm going for the airplane pilot look in order to have some quality sound. So here we go with this. We are doing week habit six in our 7 habits of highly effective dance educators. If you haven't watched the previous ones, go back and check them out. Habit six is a fun one. If you've been building up and like working all the other skills, like the synergy thing is where it's at. That's what this habit is about. So if you are in a position where you are looking to new solutions to old problems, if for example you're looking to create more equity and diversity in your dance space, for example, and you're trying to find ways to get there, or if you are teaching a dance class, teaching a tap class, any other style where you're trying to get more ownership and engagement out of your students. You're trying to get them to lean in more, engage more, and keep them with you. If you're dealing with that kind of thing, any and all this, or you're just looking to let your students have some more fun, right? This is one of the ways to do it. So this habit is called Synergize. This is, of course, from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. So this is just a little take on it for dance educators, right? So synergizing, I think that there's a few ways to think about it. One is the old African proverb, which says that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, right? So if you want to go far, go together. There's some work to going together. If you've ever done a road trip or anything like that, you know what I'm talking about, right? So if you want to go far, go together. I used to whip and move when I was single, y'all. When I was living in New York, I had like a little backpack, like little thing on wheels. I could get on the airplane, bada bing, bada bing. Now, when we try to go for a half a day trip, it is like, right, for us to all go, right? But we're going together. There's more collaboration, right? When you're trying to go together with peers, with colleagues, with your students. There's a deeper commitment in that, right? It's beyond like doing things my way, or doing things your way, right? So we talked about like with habit 4, right? But we're trying to find what's our way here. What's our way? So that's what this synergizing idea is about. So it's about this idea that 1 plus 1. If you're kind of in a scorched earth situation or win lose situation, 1 plus 1 could somehow equal up to being like point 0.5. Like, if you really have those two things battle, those 1 and 1, those two individuals battle, then you could end up at like a point 0.5 result. Um, you know, you're like, great, if you end up at 1 plus 1 equals 2, we got something, out of the two of us. But if we can really synergize, then 1 plus 1 can equal 3, 4, 10, 20. You can get so much more out of it if both parties or multiple parties are bringing more and have the space to bring more to the table, where everybody can influence what's happening, and this really amazing unexpected thing can be created, right? So that's where it is. And I think it takes a lot of the reason why I think it's habit 6 is because it takes so much of the other skills, the other habits, to get to a point where you're independent enough to be influenced, where you're independent enough and strong enough to have your principles but be influenced by somebody else's, and find ways where two different people can create something different, new, better, right? So like in my professional development program called Roots, Rhythm, Race, and Dance, we're running it right now. We have our first conference calls this week, and one of the coolest things that happens on our weekly discussions, we get on Zoom together, dance educators from all over the world that are looking to create more equity and inclusivity in their dance environments, and to effectively talk about race and dance history in age-appropriate ways in their dance settings as they're teaching dance history. And there's a lot of things and like different kind of conundrums, I don't know, like that people are bringing that we don't know the answers to. But because we can get on a call and we can get on Zoom, like there's a bunch of us there from all over the world teaching in different dance styles, different dance settings, from public schools to universities, conservatories, teaching, Lindy Hop, tap, whatever, that we can all bring a different perspective to the table and see what we can come up with. And sometimes what we come up with is more questions. Right? Sometimes we come up with more questions. I'm not sitting there holding all the answers. Lord knows I am not. Like, but the idea is that we can all come together and open up and have this deeper conversation. Use the training materials that I created, as some guiding principles, but to really open up and have a deeper conversation where everybody can bring something to it, and we can come up with different ideas, different questions, different principles to examine and to shine onto, a different circumstance, and help dance educators to find and reach their goals with regard to dance history, equity, inclusivity, etc. So that's one way that it can work, and that's more of a peer example. Like when you're working with colleagues, like how are you looking to up level your program in one way or another? Like you can all bring those things to the table. So whether you have younger teachers, older teachers, less experienced teachers, more experienced teachers, people who come from a professional performing background, people who have been purely students, you have all these different perspectives that can come together, perhaps on a dance faculty, that can bring something new and different because of all of these different perspectives, right? Now even in a in a cipher environment, that so many dance forms have that, where there's this improvisational energy, that jam session, that cipher, where creation is happening right there. And what happens in that jam or that cipher will only happen that one time, and it'll never happen again. Everybody's being influenced by what everybody else is bringing, like there's just a different connection, a different conversation happening in that cipher kind of energy. And I think we can bring more of that to our classes. Sometimes we get so structured, with like, this is how we teach our class, that we miss some of that cipher energy. And I'll talk about that in some later weeks. But that's a really great place where your students can be into the creation, right, in an improvisational way, for example. Another way that I like to involve students, even when I'm choreographing, is I leave room for creation in the moment. Now, I know that there are some, I've worked with a lot of tap dance teachers inside of my tap teacher training program. And I know that there are some teachers that literally like write out their choreography, like step for step, formation for formation, et cetera, and bring it all, in and like this and execute, right? And so many teachers do that because, it's like the class is 45 minutes or whatever. And so you got to move. You don't have time to do like, I'm going to go in and like see what happens, right? And work it out and work steps out on the spot. There's not a lot of time for that in some situations. And then there's people who go in and do, the opposite. They don't have anything prepared. They go in and like work it out on the spot. I like to do a mix of the two myself, like when I'm choreographing. One of my mentors, Dr. Joy DeGruy, used to tell this story um, about an artist that she met, I believe was Native American, had created a tapestry. And the tapestry was a marvelous tapestry, and Dr. Joy was talking about how amazing it was, and the artist was there and said, "There's a flaw in it. There's a flaw in it." And Joy is like, I don't see a flaw. This is amazing. And the artist was like, "I want you to find the flaw. Find it. Find it. Like I put it in. I put it in." And I was like, listening to Joy tell the story, and I'm like, "What?" And so she's like looking, like, trying to examine the tapestry, and it's like, "I don't see a flaw here." And then the artist pointed to it again, and pointed to it and said, "It's right here." Said, "I put it there on purpose because it's a way for me to let the spirit into the work," right? As an artist. And I always remembered that story. I used to travel with Dr. Joyce. I would listen to her tell a lot of stories, and that was one that really stuck out to me. And so when I choreograph, I do a little bit of that. I leave room for creative spirit in the moment. So I'll go in with my plan, and sometimes my plan is at like 85%, right? But even if my plan is like 100, and I know like I've got 30 minutes to work on this today, and we're gonna get this many phrases done or whatever, I still leave room for my students to add something. I will see something. My energy is open to it. Now, if we're teaching our class and we're head down to like what we must accomplish, then we miss the opportunity for our students to engage in a different way, to offer something in a different way, right? So I always try to keep my eyes up a little bit, keep my ears up a little bit, and I'll notice a style, or I'll see a transition or some way that somebody else in the room tried to do something. And I'll be like, you know what? That's better. That's better than what I came up with. Let's keep that. So we're going to keep, this student's change, and then we're going to put that student's change into it. Okay, we're all going to do that. It makes a little challenge because I do that. I change on the spot for fairly often. So it makes my notes kind of moot when I go back to them. I'm like, we changed that on the spot. And now I don't know what it is. So I have to video at the end of my classes so I know what it is that we. Sometimes I'll be like, I'll come in, I'll say, here's what my idea is. I want us to get from here to here in this amount of time. Can we do it? What steps might work? What things might work? And to actually put it on to the dancers. And so let the dancers say, oh, I think this could do it. Okay, let's try it again with this student's idea. Let's try it again with this student's idea, so that they become a part of the cooking, right? They become a part of the cooking. The other day, we made banana bread and I let my girls stir. And I cannot tell you how excited that they were that they got to stir the little batter, whatever you call it, that they got to stir it. And like I let one of them like scramble up the little raw egg before we poured it in there. And she's like, we're doing it. Like, to be a part of it. They watch me cook all the time. But for them to be a part of it, they were excited about it. And so then they were like, we did it. Like when it came out of the oven, they're like, we made that. There was just a different excitement about it, right? As silly as that is. And so certainly for my dance students, I've seen it time and again where, they feel a little bit more engaged when they had some input into what we created. And the piece ends up being better than what I originally planned because I left the space for that creative spirit for my students to contribute something. And I never say that I'm going to do that. I don't go in typically and announce like that that's how I work. I will if I have like that little puzzle to solve of like, I want to get from here to here. I want to try this. I want to try that. They know that we're in an experimental mode. But other times I will still see something and be like, can you do that again? They're just messing around. Like, can you do that again? Ah, maybe we can work that in. Like, and I'll figure that out. Like, we're going to work in that thing that I just saw that student do. And then their ownership is just different. Like it's just more, there's more of a lean into that. And there's a little bit of excitement with that. And I love that too, because I feel like I gain more. I feel like the work that I'm creating is better, that I feel more sometimes like a conductor of things when I'm teaching a class rather than like, you know, like the teacher and I check off these boxes, right? And so it's just an example of a different kind of synergy that I can create even in a choreographic space, right? Even in a choreographic space, there's something that we can be adding, and bringing to the table. Certainly different companies like, Dorrance Dance is a great company example. I've been a member of Dorrance Dance since the beginning, and there's always improv. There's always improv. There's always the space for the dancers. She has a vision, Michelle Dorrance, she'll have a vision and like, okay. And then there's this moment of improv. There's so many she's not the only choreographer that does that, but I can just think about how the show changes from night to night. Any given show that we're working on would change from night to night. The energy of it would change, with solos, right? Wasn't the best soloist, I did what I could do. But, like still, it's like having the chance to contribute, to bring my voice, to bring my artistry to the improv, but also to the choreography itself, that every dancer in that company gets to breathe their own life into the work. Yeah. And so it brings the work, it elevates the work and it elevates her choreography because she's got artists up there that she trusts that can elevate it. And there's space for that. There's space to be yourself in that. And that's lovely as a performing artist, right? So beyond just being a teacher, this is all about synergy. Like what ways can we problem solve? What ways that can we create more? In a different engagement, in a different connection with other people, right? That 1 + 1 = 5 = 10, and like allowing that space and being open to the possibility that there could be an our way, right? An our way. I say this, as somebody who's always looking to take my own advice. It's one of the reasons why I like doing these, and certainly you think beyond teaching dance classes, right? As somebody who is married and trying to co-parent our children, right? There's his way, there's my way, and we are like scrambling to try to find our way, right? We're trying to find our way to do it. Like it's like one of the biggest passion projects you'll ever have is like cultivating other human beings that you birthed, right? It's like how to do that and how do we come up with this partnership where we can come up with better ideas than he has, better ideas than I have, even though I think all my ideas are great. But how do we come up with the best possible options for our kids, like in terms of how we parent them, right? So you see all these different areas where, I mean, it's a great book, it's a great concept, all these areas where they apply. I just like talking about it in the world of teaching dance. So that is habit number 6. Synergize, 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 coming up with the new solutions, more creative solutions, yeah, that involve everybody, more engagement, more empowerment of all the participants. If you want to go far, go together. That is the proverb. All right. And so we have one more. The 7th one is super, super important. And boy, do I need that advice. It is coming up next week. So I'll see you back for habit number 7 next week. If you haven't checked out the previous ones, go ahead and do that. All right. Have a great one and go out there and synergize in your life. All right.